Nagaland News Network is privileged to have our Minister of Power and as well as the spokesperson for the government of Nagaland, Sir KG Kenye. And we will be talking today on issues pertaining to the state and especially the coming Lok Sabha elections that is scheduled for April 19th over here. He is part of the PDA government, which is a coalition of the NDPP as well as the BJP. And thank you, sir, for speaking to us today. And it is an honor and thank you so much for giving your time. So, of course, the basics, I'm going to start with the basics. And the most important issue at hand right now is the elections that are coming up and scheduled for April 19. The PDA consensus candidate, Dr. Chumben Murray, he has been elected, to go for the elections. But then again, the BJP is also somewhat, they were not invited for many meetings in regard to consulting of the candidate also. And especially when the ticket distribution also in Dimapur happened. And there was little, miscommunication because we were present there. So is there any rift between the two parties?
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I think we should not have any misconceptions here. The PDA is a pre-poll alliance prior to the last general election only. This alliance was formed, and after the government was installed, we first had our Rajya Sabha MP elections. And from that time only, there was a clear understanding that the Rajya Sabha MP should be given to the BJP candidate. And we have seen, we have our Rajya Sabha MP, Ms. Pangno. And so, through to their vote, they have come out very clearly, without any doubts, on their support for the NDPP candidate, whoever it might be for the Lok Sabha seat this time. So there were no ruffles. As you know, politics, there are always one or the other rumors. So you should not try to read too much into it. Yeah.
So how confident is the party, now the PDA government, for winning the elections? We are getting a lot of word also that people are favoring the Congress candidate as well, considering the people have many issues with the government also, hue and cry all the time. So do you think that the PDA candidate is in for the win?
Elections are very unpredictable. Anything may happen. So I would not take the situation for granted.
Okay.
But we will continue to approach and plead to the conscience of our citizens, the electorates, to let good sense prevail on every voter. And considering whatever the government has been trying to do in the last 1 year, we have done everything possible. We have left no stones unturned, tried to address every issue with sincerity and commitment, keeping the interests of the state and the people in our minds. So this time around also it is no different. We have so many issues to be taken up with the center. And the voice of our people in the parliament is very important. So we feel that our candidate will be acceptable by our electorates. He's a very seasoned, experienced politician himself, Dr. Mori. And we will campaign in the days, we got about a fortnight ahead of us. We will campaign for him and for the PDA as a whole, that people once again request them to vote and repose their confidence in us again by voting for our candidate.
What is the main objective of the PDA government if elected for the Lok Sabha? I mean, the manifesto is not out yet. And so what is the main objective now, sir, for the PDA government?
Without bringing out the manifesto also, I think the last general elections, PDA manifesto is there, and it will be not much different from that. So our priorities anyway, whereas the general election was state-centric, this time it will be to the center and to the union government. So we will take up issues that are relevant with the center, like you have the our Enpo issue on the FNT, and we also have the FMR, the free movement regime. And we have so many other things connected with our land and resources also. And of course, stopping it is our political issue, the Indo-Naga political talks. So all those will be our priorities. And besides that, anything that is connected to the interests of the state will be our priority. So he will take up these issues with the center.
Speaking of the ENPO issue, the Eastern Nagaland has decided not to not to take part in the elections. And in fact, just yesterday again, they have written to the election commissioner of India, Chief Election Commissioner of India, saying to make arrangements for them not to make sure that they don't take part. So, sir, will this be a big hindrance for the elections that will be happening, the polling day? Will it be a big hindrance for the PDA government or for the people of Nagaland? Will it be not a good sign as well? What message are we giving out to the center if this happens?
Abstaining, boycotting elections for us is not a new thing. Before you were born, before we were born, and the first election, the first two general elections in India were boycotted. 1952, 1957. And then you have seen during our lifetime how we boycotted the 1998 general election to the state. So if we are to learn something or anything from out of our experience, I still feel it yields no benefits for either of the parties, to the government, the center that is, and to the electorates, Nagas. So, and it has also taught us that with or without our participation, election continues. Unless we are able to absolutely abstain, that is, not to cast even a single vote or not to file nomination, which may and can send a signal. But to reach that kind of position now, I rule it out. So haphazardly, if XYZ don't participate in the electoral process also, wherever there is a vote casted with one or two majorities, the democracy is such on the counting, he or she will be declared the candidate. So the process will take place anyhow. So here is a time when I would also take this opportunity to request our brothers from the eastern part of Nagaland that they must reconsider their stand. If they do not participate in the electoral process this time, they will be not a part of the citizens who have reposed their confidence or support to whoever is elected as our member. In which case, you never know, there could be some shortfall in the interest of the person's commitment to take up their issues in the House. Or for that matter, this House, which will be assembled after the election in the Parliament, may not feel obligated to take up, discuss any issue where that section of people has not participated in the electoral process, by which means this House is constituted, Or the same can befall in the government also. If the union government, tomorrow it will be installed, certainly whichever party under whichever leadership comes to power, they might say that we are not obligated to take up any issue where those people did not participate in the electoral process whereby we are in the government today. So after our tenure, 5 years, they may take up, but during our time it may not. Yeah.
They won't be obligated.
Yeah. And there are so many other minus disadvantages also, which I don't want to deliberate today extensively. But all in all, by the by, this is going to be not anything beneficial for us. Yeah, it's a loss. It will be a loss.
Do you think the Eastern Nagaland really knows the crux of the demands that they're making? I mean, the public especially. Are they aware? Have they been, sensitized on all of these issues? Do you think that is the mistake also that the leaders of the NP are making, or the ENLU as well, and the rift again between the ENPU and ENLU, the tug of war that's happening with the government? Do you have anything to say on that? These are two questions about the public being aware of the demands, whether they really know what it entails, and then the ENLU and the ENPO, sir.
Well, that's a very relevant point you have raised. And it certainly is a point which we have to ponder again. I feel the more deliberation is required at all levels, especially at the grassroots level. And, there seems to be some communication gaps with leaders at the higher level also. And I have also noticed that there could be some rift with the center and the negotiating teams back home. So we should try and connect all these gaps together. And the solution tomorrow will lie mostly on our united stand, a concerted united stand from our people back home here with the state government. So taking our issues outside of the state boundaries always and rushing to the center also does not make much sense. Rather, we should try to hammer out our differences, deliberate things from here at our own level, and if we can reach a consensus, nothing like that.
Okay. And the rift of an ENLU and ENPO, sir, I mean, the tug of war, as I said, the people are thinking that the ENLU are puppets of the Rio government or the chief minister. There are many comments like that everywhere. So do you have anything to say on that?
No, I will not term them as puppets. No, neither will I call them voiceless or decisionless. No, they're all leaders of good standing and elected, mandated, elected. So they are respectable and honorable members, and they have been trying to make a balance at different times with different groups of people or authorities. So it is quite natural when they were not a part of the negotiating team, or they call it the talks team, that they don't have the first-hand information about the latest status. So they had to go to the center and try and clarify certain things. But unfortunately, it was on the eve of election. That's the fact end. So all the politicians there, or whoever matters there, were all on campaign trails in their respective states. So they could not give them the time that they deserve, I think. But the authorities, whoever they be, they have met them, and I think they are clear about the issue now. We should not try to rush this like this. You know, everything good takes time. So it will take a little more time. Let us be patient and whatever is best for our common interests as citizens of this Nagaland state, I'm sure we will arrive at a reasonable decision.
And earlier you had also mentioned, apart from the ENPO issue, the FMR, the free movement regime that is going to be cancelled, and the fencing of the border. And this time during the assembly session, it was decided to request the government of India. Now, what is the status of that? And do you think the BJP government will actually listen to the requests of the government of Nagaland? Because even though the other states are also having the same issue, Mizoram has definitely declined this as well. Is Nagaland ready to push the government, ready to push the BJP to make sure it does not happen? And what is your take on, if it does happen, what is going to be the outcome?
See, I don't know whether you were there in the last assembly session, on the day which we deliberated about the FMR. I had dwelt on this topic almost in detail, which I would like to recount again now. Yeah, whoever be it at the center is the center. This is not a BJP or a Congress I or any other party's agenda or policy. It is the center's policy, central government, the union government. So now, who will come to power next? That we don't know. So I won't name any party, as you would like to term, but I will not. I'll refrain from it. Now, yes, we are. You have Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal, especially these 4-5 states bordering the McMahon line on the eastern side of our country. All have reacted. Some have recommended that it should be implemented in toto, like Arunachal. Yeah, there are others like Mizoram who have said no. Yeah, they declined, rejected, requested the center not to implement. Then we have divided approaches, opinions in Manipur. The state government saying something, the other civil society is saying another thing, and Nagaland, of course, the state as well as the people all outrightly rejecting it. But why Nagaland's approach and Nagaland's opinion matters, and why it may be based on our stand more than any other states. This McMahon line is an imaginary boundary. Correct. This war on McMahon and the McMahon's line, the boundary, started way back in 1914. 1914, 1915, British India. And it started, the genesis lies in the Shimla Agreement, which was to do with Tibet's inner line boundary and the outer line boundaries bordering India, British India. So it was, inner line was not disputed, but the outer line was controversial. So that time, the Chinese authorities, Li Fang, and Tibetan authority, Mr. Dorji, who were both having plenipotentiary powers by way of their city. They represented Tibet and China under the convenership of Mr. Sir Arthur Henry McMahon. They had a meeting in 1914 to try and make the demarcations clear about Tibet and China and British India. So Arthur Henry McMahon seems to be a highly decorated man. He was an English gentleman, and he had served in the Sikh regiment also, British India. That's how he got this name, maybe Mohan. Something. He's not an Indian. So a highly decorated man. History tells us that he was a knight. He was knighted, and he was again promoted as a commander of the Knights of the Victoria's Order, British government, British Empire. He, at that point of time, was serving as the secretary to the government of the British Empire in India, Secretary for Political and Foreign Affairs. So naturally, with the full plenipotentiary powers of the government of the Empire of Britain. So they were all three very powerful persons, and they had the full authority to finalize the borders, the boundary disputes. And they had arrived at a certain demarcation which will be northwest of us just now, the Tibet, the Tibet area. And down that area where I think the Chinese authorities refused to accept the decision, and IFAN walked out. That's what history tells us. Anyway, so in that meeting, this boundary demarcation was made, going north of us, and at that time, present Arunachal was called Tawang, simply Tawang. Today we know Tawang as a district, but it referred to the entire Arunachal Pradesh those days. And they say it was the south of Tibet, they had claimed it. But it was too near to Assam, which is very much a part of the British Empire in there. So they wanted to shift this border up above the present Arunachal Pradesh, bordering Tibet on the west and China on the right. So while making this shift, they drew this line further east, and just on the tip of, they don't say India, they say Assam history. Assam and Myanmar and China, they had come down south, all along our, presently we call it Saramati Range, from there, down south on the highest slopes of the sub-Himalayan range, up to latitude 0.26. That's where we are in the map. So this line on the northern and northwestern side, it's silent now, but very much from the north to south, dividing present-day Burma, India, and Myanmar, this is very much alive, and this is called the McMahon line. That's how history tells us about it. Now, this McMahon line is so called because it was under his convenorship that this was drawn. But at that time, 1914, there was no India, there was no Myanmar, Burma. They were all a part of the British Empire. So later on, when in 1947, India received its independence, and also in 1948, when Burma got its independence, maybe, just maybe, their leaders felt that injustice has been done to us, because unlike the other parts of the world where ethnicity, the culture, or the indigenous, contiguous society, all these cultural customary are taken into account, and then divisions are made. For us, they just followed the top ridge, and the watershed on the east and west became two different countries. That is where the Naga inhabited areas, which inhabit both sides of this present McMahon line, was divided into two countries, Burma and India. That's why maybe in 1953, on the 3rd of March 1953, the two prime ministers, top leaders, the Burmese Prime Minister UNU and the Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, both came to Kohima on the 3rd of March 1953. That's about 71 years back. You can imagine our condition. But instead of going to Mizoram, Meghalaya, Manipur, Arunachal, they came to Nagaland's headquarters. Those days we were a district under Assam. So Naga Hills, under Naga Hills, Kohima, they came, and they wanted to meet our people. We don't know why. But because the reception was arranged haphazardly, not in order, and there was a commotion and confusion, which made us to walk out of the present-day Kucheje playground, where tens of thousands have gathered to receive and listen to them. Some people manipulated the occasion, And they did not want us to observe our tradition of the host speaking first. That's a small thing. So we say, no, we as the host have to speak first to welcome our guests. Where the authorities said, no, today no one will be allowed to speak nor submit any memorandums to the visiting dignitaries. Okay. So the commotion there started. And from there, differences of opinion broke out, and our people started shouting out in the ground that no Naga should ever stay to listen to our dignitaries because they have not allowed us to speak first. So they were seated on the rostrum, and while walking out, I think all these war cries, crossing the rostrum, and then very undignified, unpleasant demonstrations of slapping your bottoms and all by our people took place, which must have been taken as an insult, and naturally they'll feel humiliated. So after we disappeared in minutes, just 2-3 minutes time, the thousands of people gathered there just vamoosed into thin air. Dignitaries also could not have the meeting, besides few government officials. And that way they left that time. So it's a matter of regret. That was, I say, a terrible accident. A terrible accident. Today, to have one country's prime minister come, today, even today, it's a big thing. Yes. Imagine, back in 1953, 2 prime ministers came. And the 2 prime ministers of the 2 countries where our people were divided into, Burma and India. So if we just try to imagine the purpose or try to guess the purpose, why they must have come, what prompted them to come and meet us, then I say by all count they've come for a discussion with us, to ask us our opinion as to whether all Nagas wanted to go to Myanmar, become a part of Burma, or all Burmese Nagas also wanted to come into India. Or a third option, what do you say? What do you want? What is your stand? Where, we could have had a lot of negotiations.
That time.
But some people came to know that something was on the anvil, which will be good for us in our future. They just siege the entire show and turn it into a mess. So it's a matter of deep regret still that it should not have happened like that. So after that, things went haywire. And after that, what happened in history, unfortunately, till today, we have not been able to reach that level where we have such a situation to discuss nicely and negotiate nicely among us. So things were left at that point. Today, when that sensitive issue comes back again, certainly they will study and consider the stand taken by Nagaland.
Okay.
So it is important for us, and we have discussed it thoroughly, and no member opposed it. Everyone said we have to tell the center, we'll impress the center that this should be reconsidered, and at least a moderate arrangement between us. Some arrangement can be made where both sides can agree to have this kind of free movement regime continue. With some rules, with some regulations, whatever. Yeah. So that is our stand.
Okay. So, you are also the Minister of Power, and I'm going to take this opportunity, of course, and to discuss many issues, because I'm not sure when we will be able to speak to you again next time. So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask a lot of issues pertaining to the state issues. And one of them is, of course, under your department. What is your strategy, sir, this year, perhaps, or your objective also to improve the power supply in the state? Because now summer is coming in very close, and just yesterday, in fact, sir, the whole of Dimapur did not have electricity because of the heavy winds and all, because of the storm in West Bengal and Assam. So we were affected by it the whole day. So is there any plans to improve the power supply in the state?
Certainly. This power shortage or power cuts interruptions have become a very, very big concern for all of us. So last assembly, I missed the last day where the questions were. So I could not explain. It's good that you are asking me today. I'll just try to cover it up. Unfortunately, though we have the potentials, we could not tap it because hydro is the most preferred way of generating power. Our elders, our seniors, life at that time was very simple, so they never imagined that within such a short time, life would change and everything would be centralized around power, that every step that mankind takes for development will be something to do with power. Now, this will become the centrifugal force in a modern life. So they were quite satisfied with one small light bulb burning. The entire house gets the light, and that's it. And naturally, at that time, they must have thought life would be like that. But in a very short span of time, we have taken a giant leap, and mankind as a whole, which also took us along in this remote part of the world also. We went along with technological advancement. And everything, almost everything is based on power. Yes. From your mobile to a bulb. I mean, you name it. Everything has to be charged. Yeah, everything. So suddenly the requirement of power has, increased tenfold or more. And we were not prepared for this. And so we were purchasing power supply with paying a few lakhs to the producing states or the power grid. And we thought that should suffice, not necessary for us to produce, but suddenly this reality has dawned on us. So now we are desperately looking out for the potential areas which we have plenty, and it should be sufficient for our requirements. And we are trying to do everything and anything possible. Solar is one area which can be done more quickly. Yes, I was just coming to that. And will be an answer as a stopgap arrangement because hydros take time. So many projects are on the anvil, and we're trying to give it a boost to supplement our power requirements. Because now the peak requirement of our state is about 180 megawatts. And we're producing only about 12 to 20 megawatts. So you can see the shortfall, about 140, 50 megawatts shortage. Now this we try to make up by purchasing from the power grid and the producing states, neighboring producing states. Yeah. So now, see, you listen carefully here, because we are laymen. We are not technicians, electricians. So I found it very difficult in the beginning to understand the entire modus operandi and the concept. But I'm just getting a little familiar now with it. Yeah. So now we are spending hundreds of crores to purchase. But even if we purchase now in the peak season, especially in the low-lying areas where it is hot, people use it. They use a lot of power for fan, for cooling, for fridge, for refrigerators, and for ACs. Now, the demand is high because consumption is high. They start overloading the transformers whose capacities are smaller. Or even if we put a large transformer, which can cater to the demands, it is not as much as the demands, not to meet the demands earlier. So we're trying to replace by installing higher power transformers also, one. Second point is our stations, the power stations in Dimapur is the main to store or through which we transmit the energy to the rest of the state. Is the receiving point, okay? One we have in Bokokchuk, a smaller one and a larger one in Dimapur. So these power stations capacities are not built to transmit, to carry this much load to transmit it to the demands of 140, 50, 60, 70, you know. So what we need to do now, as we also survey, investigate, and start building our hydros, meantime, immediately we have to upgrade and strengthen the power stations, receiving the powers from the power grid and neighboring states. This was pending for a long time because it is expensive. It's expensive and our state has no revenue to invest, so we asked the center to assist us. So unfortunately, this did not get the importance, the priority that it deserved for many years. But this year, 23-24, just about a month back, the donor under the PM Divine scheme, they have sanctioned for us to be able to install a higher grade power station.
Enough for the state.
Enough for the state just now.
Okay, that's good news.
Yeah. Plus, they have also assisted us in the upgradation, strengthening of the existing Nagaland station. So all this now will take up on war footings. So we hope in a year's time at least, we will be able to do better.
That's great news, sir. I mean, I'm very happy to hear that. I'm from Dimapur, so yesterday I could feel, what people were going through as well. And you were mentioning about the revenue generation from the power department. And do you feel that the department is not generating any revenue because of the pilfering and waiving of bills, people surpassing the meter system, hooking up their own lines directly, all of this? And what is the department doing on this? Are they curbing it? Are they putting their foot down strictly to implement such things?
Very much. In fact, in the last 2 years, third year now, the last 2 years, our revenue collection has improved a lot. We have still not met the targets, but then we are very, very much satisfied with the increase in the revenue collection. So to get this much back from the people, our department and our staffs, the field staffs, the engineers had to work a lot. They worked so hard. And in the course of trying to implement the ground rules, the department had to, confront with very unpleasant situations in most of the urban areas, wherever there are heavy consumers, you see. But the job of the law enforcement agency we cannot do, and as a simple department, we cannot go beyond that in our strictures which we impose on the consumers. So here, I'm appealing to the citizens of the state again. Let us contribute to the coffers of the state so that we have enough to purchase the power which we are supplying to them. It's a two-way thing, you see. We cannot buy unless we get back something from the people. Now they consume. And they consume, but they never pay back in terms of revenue to us. Then next, from where we will get again to buy and then give it to them. So our boys are having a hard time, and people are not realizing it. We have that single point metering earlier, which recently after we installed new government, I have said we have to review the system because they destroy the single point meter, or they do anything that the meter stop working every time. And they just pay a lump sum. So this practice has been going on a lot, where there's a shortfall in revenue because of tappings. And there are other areas also, which I will tell you in due course of time, but we're not very satisfied with the collection.
What about the ones, now that the meter system has come and like you said, tapping was happening, but as a consumer, let's say I have raked up a really huge amount of bill because of non-payment. And what do they do with that? It'll be in lakhs, and some people will not be able to pay that amount. And this is just for the awareness of people also, that I want you and your expertise and your what you can judge out of this is, what are they going to do if they cannot pay? Because we have done some stories where a lot of under the table deals are happening as well. I mean, in the department between the consumer and maybe an official to, waive off certain amounts and then stuff like that. I'm not naming anyone. It could happen in any departments, not just in power or anything, but something like that, for example. So what should the consumer do if they've raked up a really huge amount of bill?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because we're having a problem in that area. Now, as far as dues, the balance to be realized, as you said, the dues are concerned, this is a matter which the department alone cannot decide. So we have a mind to take it up to the government. Under what policy can this be addressed? Because it's a recurring feature every year. It's not something which happened and had stopped. So every year it is incurring so many crores, hundreds of crores. So the department alone is not in a position to take a decision here. Certainly that is one area of concern which we will take up with the government. Now, about the smart metering, you mean to say. This one, surprisingly, there are people, the consumers at the grassroots levels are not willing to accept. The department has met with stiff opposition, even threats, when our boys try to go and install the smart metering system. So I think we need to collectively educate our people that it should not be like that. And being a Christian state and we being Christians, I think we have to practice honesty at least, with austerity measures at each and every individual's level, and not try to resort to such kind of unacceptable practices. For how long we will continue like this? No? And there has to be a limit. Yeah, and it has to stop somewhere, start afresh again. So allow the department to install the smart meterings, first in the cosmopolitans, then we are aiming for all the rural villages also. That is where we are.
That's actually so very on your expertise from your department, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers also was very much wanting to know what are they going to do with their dues. So yes, they're in safe hands if the government takes up this issue, I would say. Now moving along, sir, another topic of discussion which has been going on for many, many, many years is the Nltp Act, and this is, I would say, heating up more as well, especially in Dimapur, with the organization DUCCF also giving a memorandum to the governor, who has forwarded to the chief minister, and it's just for Dimapur right now. But what do you feel, where are we on this right now, considering the church is there, and then the government and the people, the consumers, because it is no secret that it is being sold openly. So can you please speak a little bit on this?
Yeah. We are more concerned for the health of our citizens. Revenue generation is secondary. Yeah. It should not be misunderstood. And all sort of illicit activities and the things, practices surrounding life itself, on bootlegging. This has become a huge social problem. And the government can see it. With much concern, we're watching, because when we have banned the liquor, import of liquor, production, sales, consumption, then the excise department cannot study and analyze check the composition of that liquor, of how much alcohol contents are there, how much of other spirit contains and how, whether it is poisonous, whether it is fit for consumption, nobody can check because we have banned it. So which authority, whether it's the social welfare, whether it's the medical, whether it is the excise, nobody can check it. So we don't know what it is there. But somehow authorities, despite their best attempts, it is, we all know, it's still flowing inside. So, and people continue to consume it. So when we study the health of our citizens, we feel that the majority of the health problems is because connected with the consumption of alcohol. And it's taking a toll, especially for our young citizens, the younger generation, our children, you know.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, and one thing with alcohol is a user will use, no matter what. Yeah, and they will find a way, one way or the other, to get it. So we have seen countries, Christian countries like America and other states in this country itself, all tried but all failed. This is something to do with the habit of the individual. Nah? It's to do with the individual's belief, his or her outlook, and their social, their lifestyle. So here the government cannot start moral policing. We have been asked to ban it in 1989. We have been asked to ban it by the church and the people. I was there in the assembly. We also raised our hand. We said, okay, since our people wants that it should be banned, though we have our own opinions, we will ban it. So we banned it. So it's now 30 plus years, 35, 6 years, 3.5 decades. So the government is only a reactor, you know. The government acts and reacts according to the people's wishes. So now, again, we are flooding the same issue to the mass, to the people, and we are studying the reactions of the people. We will not hurriedly jump to a conclusion to take any decision.
But do you feel, sir, that there should be a limit or a line drawn between religious beliefs, since it was the church that suggested this, and religious beliefs influencing policy making decisions, sir, for the state and for the people? Don't you think, not just in this and many other issues as well? So can you just give us maybe your personal take on that as well, you know, your religious beliefs and the policy making decisions influencing each other, I would say.
I know, yeah. Well, it's personal, whatever I express now. But akin to a commercial organization, say, like we have the car making giants, companies, Toyota or Mahindra in India, whatever. When they keep manufacturing cars, brakes, light vehicles, heavy vehicles, and they sell out thousands, millions across the world. But when they see that complaints are pouring in from all around the world, from the customers about the defect of that production, that batch, that model, then they recall. In lakhs, in crores, in millions, they recall everything back to their factory, and they try to correct whatever is wrong, and then give them back again. Or completely ban that batch, that model, and start a new one again. So that is called accountability, isn't it? That is being responsible for your actions. So the church, ban is on the state of Nagaland, on the people of Nagaland. We are a Christian state, Christian majority. So who are the consumers? Who are the producers or the bootleggers? Who are the people involved here? There are, I'm sure, 90% Christians.
Correct.
So as you rightly pointed out, the stand of our church,
And
maybe
influencing.
influencing, yeah.
policy.
Exactly.
Decision.
So it was the church who had influenced this policy of banning it,
Yes.
isn't it? So it was banned at their behest. And after that, whether government has done enough or not, whether who has done enough, not enough, okay, let us share the responsibility.
Yeah.
But simply influencing an authority to cause something, lifting or banning, and then sitting put, watching will not help.
Yes.
Yeah. So this, whoever are the consumers or the bootleggers, the transporters, I mean, they are most probably majority Christian citizens. So I think our Christian community should be at the fore to try and teach our citizens, our fellow citizens, not to continue this habit of being dependent on alcohol or alcohol consumption to a great extent. So this is where again we share a common responsibility. And if that policy influenced by their stand is not working as how it is supposed to be, the people who were at the forefront to bring this policy should also be strong and then brave enough to have a review of that entire policy again. There's nothing wrong.
You were talking about the health of the consumers and the public. That is the most important. But what about the revenue? You have spoken at length right now about the consumers. Now the revenue generation. It's in multiple crores. So don't you think that is one very important aspect for the government to consider and have across the table conversation with the church? If that has happened or not, we're not sure, but do we have this chat continuously?
Certainly, revenue is also very important, and we are concerned because our small state, if we have revenue generation from other areas also, whereby we don't feel the pinch if in one aspect we are deprived of generating revenue, it is okay. But when we have no other sources, we have only 2 or 3 areas where we can generate revenues. And this is one area which is depriving us of a huge amount of generating revenue, much needed revenue. When you think of the employment problem, development sector, you name it, anything where funds are required. It is a state like us which feels the pinch most. So it will be, I'll be telling you a lie if I say that it is all right if we don't take this revenue also. We need it. But more than that, the health of the citizen, again, where we'll be spending so much again to go outside to buy medicine for the treatments. How much we're spending now here. So this is also being caused because of consuming the wrong stuffs in our daily lives. That is where we come in. Yeah.
Speaking of consuming the wrong stuff, also drugs. Our war on drugs has the government is fairly doing well right now at this point with the police under the guidance and leadership of the DGP as well, Rupin Sharma. A lot of, in fact, just a few days ago, the kingpin of was arrested, and it's a huge. What do you say? Huge. I'm sorry. So yes, he was arrested. So now, what is the government doing? Because we are seeing it every day. The children, the youth, seems to be just consuming themselves in drugs and becoming addicts, which is leading to them becoming looting. People and thieves are on the rise because of this. Theft is on the rise because of this, because they are, they want to buy the drugs. So all this is happening. So is the government doing enough, or what is the government's plan now, the POA?
This is a menace the world over. Every government, every society is battling, fighting against this social menace. It is not peculiar to us alone. But the more important thing is we are just on the borders of the Golden Triangle. It's just in our backyard here. Huh? So accessibility-wise, we are most accessible to these stuffs because they are all around us. Neighboring states, neighboring countries, huh? It's flourishing. So it makes it's so easy for our people to get access to this. So for us, now this is not an easy job. Our people, many have started involving into this trade also, making a living out of this also. And many of our youths, in fact, those youths have become men, old now. They are already trapped in this habit, which is so unfortunate. Now, as a young and just growing society, maturing society, all this happened much before we came to know about the consequences of becoming addicts. So it's unfortunate. Our heart goes out to those who are into this, also their close ones, their family members. How much they'll be suffering, we don't know. And so the government is doing its best. At least this we will fight tooth and nail, and with every means that we have. And we are so proud of our executive, the police forces. Yeah, they are doing a laudable job. The DGP himself taking so much initiative. Yeah, and as you rightly said, just a few days back, our commissioner, police and his team in Imapu has done a really laudable job by nabbing the kingpin himself, who was on the run for so many years. Huh? So with this development, with this arrest, we hope they'll be able to root out this network, which will come as a very big relief for the government as well as the society. And hopefully, this will affect the network in the entire region, northeastern region, bordering the country on the east. Yeah.
Lastly, one last topic I wanted to ask is the Uniform Civil Code. Yes, we have been told that we are exempted, but slowly we can see it creeping into the state as well, and a Uniform Civil Code is what the government is looking at, the center. So do you think, are you certain, can you assure that Nagaland will not be under UCC? Because even though our chief minister has reiterated that yes, we are exempted, but for instance, just this Easter and Good Friday, there was working days. I mean, that's a law. It won't come under UCC, but then a law is coming into force where a Christian state is being told that they will be working days. And the NBC also just came out with a press note today saying that that is very uncalled for. But the UCC, again, same personal laws sort of coming in. Do you think that is going to happen in Nagaland?
Certainly, I can assure, with whatever has transpired in our discussions with the highest authority at the center, I can assure that we will not fall into this, under the purview of this act.
Okay.
Yeah. The government, the state government itself have already submitted our point of view by a representation on behalf of the government as well as the people of Nagaland, and have submitted last year before to the commission which was constituted for this act. And on our visit to the authorities that time, they have assured us that tribals and Christians of the northeastern region will be exempted. That is very clear.
Okay.
Now, so after that, we are observing that there has been no such moves or attempts to try and bring us under the purview of this UCC. Okay? And unfortunately, yeah, I've also seen about the circulars in the Nagaland University
Yes.
on Easter Sunday, Easter Saturday, Good Friday. Somehow this became working days and all. But I would say this is an unfortunate
I mean,
coincidence.
don't you
Okay.
think this Hindutva agenda is creeping in slowly, that making a Christian state such as Good Friday, Easter Sunday to be working days when we have not had that in decades? And, this little slowly, this moves.
I wouldn't say that. Rather, I would say because 31st March is a fixed financial year ending day.
Right.
Okay, it's fixed. It's not only this year. It has been happening for how many decades? Yeah. Whereas Easter Sunday, yeah, rotates, changes sometime ahead, sometime backward. No? So I would say this was a chance coincidence. Yeah, and I would not try to read too deep into it. Yeah.
Then maybe I guess many are overreacting on this. Yeah. Right. I just told you that on the last topic, but something just struck my mind about the ILP, implementation of the ILP, sir. I mean, we being in the news, every time there's a certain crime committed, big or small, petty or big, usually it is a non-local. Anything that happens, death of anybody also, it's a non-local. Like railway stations, drugs selling, peddlers, everything is non-local. So how serious is the government right now to implement ILP, and how are they going to do it? Such a huge number.
I have, I think, dwelt on this earlier also during the Citizenship Amendments Act. I had tried to explain the background of this inner line permit regulation and the Bengal Eastern Frontiers Regulation Act of 1873, which gave birth to the inner line permits provision. The mother of inner line permit provisions, the power is the 1873 Act of Bengal Eastern Frontier Act. Okay? So it's a long story, but now I will give you some reading materials. Just one booklet which I've written on the controversy surrounding the CAA of 2019. So if you read through it properly, and which I request other journalist friends of the world of communication and leaders to also try and spare some time to delve into history and what it deals with. Because this is concerning our lives. The inner line permit is concerning our life. 1873, British India enacted this Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act in the House of Commons, England, in the Parliament. So here they enacted this, and that was largely the present northeastern states to cover and protect the ethnicity, the culture, the indigenous communities surrounding here and their lifestyle. So that the rest of the mainland India, British India, does not go and starts manipulating, exploiting, and doing what thoroughfaring with this region. Because the Englishmen knew that we were different from the rest of the mainland India. And there were millions, just swarming millions, population-wise. And we were just, I don't know, that time, how many lakhs would be put together also. Nagas to only about 80,000, 75,000. So it all, just the demographic intrusion, the population itself will finish us, like Tripura we fear about, or half of Assam, the southern part. So for fear of a population overrun, they had brought out this protective provision called the inner line permit, whereby inner means our side. This is the inner part, northeast. So that permit it will be imposed, and they will not cross this to come into our jurisdiction. This is called the inner line permit. Only the British authorities will give this permit. So now beyond this, inside, no Indian citizens or any class of that citizen, because that time Goa side they had Spanish, and there were so many Americans also. Then you had the Britishers who were Indian citizens. So Indians, all Indians or any class of that category were prevented from entering our parts without obtaining that permit. And beyond this boundary inner line, they are not supposed to take even a photograph or scribble some things in their diary about us or draw or write and then take. No, even that also was confiscated. They're not supposed to even take one dry leaf or fallen dry tree stick also from here, a stone, artifact, anything. Absolutely banned. And within that specified period, few days, a week or so, they go in with guide and they come out like that. They're not supposed to also purchase land. They're not supposed to establish business. They're not supposed to do anything inside this area, our areas. So there are some interpretations that they did it because of their commercial interests. Tea gardens, which they had plenty in Assam, to protect the hillsmen. Our people going and destroying those or beheading those tea garden people. They had made this line, they say. So I say, okay, whatever way they interpret, it's a binary. It serves the purpose on both sides. But more so it was supposed to protect our interests. Right. They had this up to 1947, till they liberated India, so long as they were ruling India. After 1947, India got independence. Young India started framing their own constitution. Okay? In the new constitution, they did not give this provision in their constitution, in the Citizenship Act. They are still supposed to carry on with the British legacy, but they did all other things, but they did not include these powers anymore, 1873 Act or Inner Line. But they had it, they never brought it to Parliament. It was no more an act, but they had it as ordinance, executive order, which they can scrap anytime. If they decide today, government cabinet, tomorrow it will be removed, like that sort of thing. So it no longer became a law, and only in 2019, after we have fought, since 2016, this new act came to the parliament. They could not pass it because we also did not support it, because we said there is no protection. You want to bring in thousands, crores, make them Indian citizens from these 4 or 5 countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or from anywhere in the world, we have no objection. But you give us back our protection here, our fencing and our gate, called Inner Line Permit, and the 1873 Act, you put it in the Constitution. Make it law, like it was during British India, and protect us. Then you bring it as much as you want in your own and give them citizenship, it's okay. But they did not give us. So fighting, 2016, 17, 18, 19, December 11, they brought a new, rectified, corrected, and made it into a law and inserted it into the Citizenship Act as 6B, insertion of a new section, whereby in clause 1, 2, 3, 4, they have said all the 6 scheduled areas, tribal areas in Meghalaya, Assam, and the places where the inner line permit regulations are in operation, that is by the executive only. The CAB, Citizenship Act, will not be implemented in those areas. So the government of India now have recognized officially 1873 Inner Line Permit, and they've put it into the Constitution of India. That is why we said now our demand is fulfilled, and we supported the bill in 2019. December. Okay? Now we can fully implement the provisions of the inner line permit in Nagaland. So the state government, it's up to them whether they want to implement it fully or half or not to implement. It's up to them. So the citizens now should awaken to the realities, ask for strict implementation of the inner line permit covering the entire state, that is Dimapur also.
Right.
And then that will be protection for us. Then it will protect us in every conceivable way. We don't have to fear anything.
We do have a lot of porous places, though, especially the Assam borders of our state. It's very porous. So, do we have enough manpower to make sure that this is implemented to the brim?
Where there's a will, there's a way. We can identify those porous locations and at least try to fancy it. Other than that, we should have periodic checkings. Yeah. Squads should be there, enforcement squads should be there at the district level also. And from time to time, they should be scouting around in the state to nab all those defaulters or infiltrators. Okay? So here, any Indian citizen, be they from Assam or Manipur or Arunachal also, they are liable to be arrested if they don't have the inline permit. By producing their Indian passport, they will not skip.
Yes.
By producing Aadhaar card, as in Seluphai village, they said, they produce Assam ka Aadhaar card, so they could not arrest them. No, they are from Assam. They are outside of the state of Nagaland. They should be arrested and deported or penalized.
Okay.
And they cannot settle here.
Yeah.
They cannot seek for
Regardless
job.
of which state.
Regardless of which state. Unless they are from this state, then they have to go. They cannot live here. They cannot purchase land. They cannot ask for employment because they'll not be given the indigenous certificate. All those strictures are there. It all depends on our determination to implement it strictly or not.
So, is the government going to do it? And how soon and how strict? I mean, you just said yes, very stringent measures, and you've explained to us. So now, is the government, when are they going to start doing this?
Yeah. It is being deliberated at the highest level, and we are categorizing. First, we have to categorize the class of citizens on whom this will be imposed and who should not be. Once we are able to work out that and segregate different categories, immediately it will come into action.
Okay. Once that is done.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.